Let us introduce ourselves. We are Iren,
Kevin,
Mariam, Talia,
and Anissa.
In this video, we will explain about the United Nations and climate change.
As we know, one of the big problems in the world is climate change. What is climate change? According to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, climate change is caused either directly or indirectly by human activities, thereby changing the composition of the global atmosphere and natural climate variability in the period comparable time. What is United Nations? The United Nations, or UN, is an international organization that aims to encourage international cooperation and can act on various problems in the world. To address the problem of climate change, the United Nations convened the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment about global environmental management policies. The Earth Summit resulted in three important conventions, namely the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, the formation of the Commission on Sustainable Development, or CSD, and the Convention on Biological Diversity, or CBD. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, is a framework for member states to discuss, negotiate, and agree on certain international treaties or protocols that can set boundaries for binding greenhouse gases.
The Paris Agreement generates funding assistance for developing countries. According to developing countries, in dealing with climate change is a responsibility for all. Developed countries become rich by using fossil fuels, should bear more responsibility and a big obligation in making changes as well as building a low-carbon economy. Because of that, the developing countries had several reasons. First, the regions of developing countries are at a geographical disadvantage by climate change. Second, developing countries, especially the least developed countries, are highly dependent on the sector most closely related to climate change. They also suffer from poor quality health facilities and community services. Third, the adaptation to climate change is difficult because low incomes and their vulnerability. The debate between developing and developed countries regarding the concept of climate justice has produced the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, or CBDR.
on June 1, 2017, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, said that he had decided to pull the United States out of the Paris Agreement on the grounds that the agreement only harmed the economy of the United States and benefited other countries. Different with Netherlands, the highest court in the Netherlands has upheld an important ruling that defines protection from damage due to climate change as a human right and requires the government to set more ambitious targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions as a result. Meanwhile, in Switzerland, environmental activists have collected enough signatures aimed to forcing the government to hold referendum on setting specific goals in against climate change in the Swiss constitution. Withdrawal of the United States from Paris Agreement has political consequences when many other countries' leaders are so focused on the issue about climate change. It potentially to trigger geopolitical friction and tension that heats up.
Increased sea level will cause tens of hundreds of millions of more people experience flooding every year, with warming of 3 or 4 degrees Celsius. It is estimated in the middle of this century, as many 200 million people could be permanently displaced due to rising sea levels, more severe flooding and drought. Forest fires are one of the reasons that can worsen climate change. In August 2019, around 2.5 million hectares Amazon forests were burned. In addition, Brazil is a country that supports REDD+, but cannot combat illegal logging. In Indonesia, many forests has been intentionally destroyed and fires for oil palm plantations and industry in Sumatra and Kalimantan. This year has become the toughest year for everybody in Australia because of the forest fires that have spread across much of southeastern Australia following a period of extreme drought and record-breaking temperatures. This caused the Australian economy, which is estimated to suffer a loss of around 4.4 billion USD. In our opinion, reforestation is the best solution in preventing more severe climate change. However, we must be careful in reforesting because it can also make climate change worse. For example, in the boreal forest, too many trees can worsen climate change. Moreover, one of the ways out to help fight climate change is to reduce meat consumption to prevent global warming pollutions by 2050.
We can conclude that the climate change has so many impacts, which could endanger the Earth or as known as our place to live. The existence of the United Nations Framework Conventions on Climate Change, or UNFCCC, is not a shield for us to combating climate change. However, it is unfortunate. In fact, there are still some countries and individuals who do not want to participate in protecting our Earth in order to gain benefits for themselves. There are many ways to fight climate change, with easy ways, such as reducing the use of motorized vehicles, planting trees around the place of residence, and reducing eating meat are basic things that can be done by each individual in against climate change. Reforestation and protecting forests is one of the most effective methods, but must be adjusted because reforestation cannot be done off-handed. That's all we've discussed about United Nations and climate change.
Goodbye! Thank you for watching!